Hey guys, let's get started. I gave it a couple minutes so more people are coming in. I see, welcome if you're just getting here. So, you're ready to buy a home, sort of, kind of, I hope. And this is just information that is useful to help make an informed decision. Make sure you're ready, or if you're not, and especially at this time. So, I want to tell a story about when I bought my first home. I was not in the mortgage business at the time. I was in the radio business. And I remember applying, we found the home, we applied for the mortgage, and I remember laying awake at night going, am I going to be approved for this? Am I not? Are they going to deny me? I didn't know. And it's a terrible feeling. You know, you break out in a cold sweat, you're insomnia, you just don't know. Because no one walked me through the process. I just applied and didn't hear anything for a while and didn't know what was going on. And so I don't want that to happen to you in any means, in any way, but especially right now, because there's the uncertainty of this being in the middle of a pandemic, right? And so is it the right time to buy? Should I wait? What's going to happen with the economy, et cetera? So let's walk through this and I'll answer some of those questions about specifically this time in this economy. But really, I want that desire to buy a home meet up with the belief that you have this, you can do this. So let's walk through a couple of things. First, the average net worth of a homeowner is 44 times greater than that of a renter. So, do you want to be the big dog, the homeowner, or the little dog? And here's why. Let's look at this. So every 2 years, and actually we should be getting the new report out soon. Anyway, every couple of years, the government, just forgot the name of the organization, they do a study of the net worth of a homeowner, this blue line, compared to a renter. And you can see the renter line goes up and down a little bit, but it's pretty much flat. And it's about $5,200. That's their net worth. The net worth of a homeowner does fluctuate more, but it goes anywhere from 60,000 at a low to currently, most recent stats, about 231,000. Why is that? Well, because instead of paying rent that really makes the landlord wealthy over time, paying your own mortgage, you're building wealth. You're paying down the mortgage, right? So you're building equity, and the home generally goes up in value, so you're gaining more equity. So that's the reason behind it. And so obviously, when you first buy a home, you're not going to instantly have 200,000 more of net worth, but over time you will, for sure. And so here's something that I wanted to look at first. What if you, up here, what if you buy versus rent, right? And then we'll look at this in 9 years. And I picked 9 years because that's the average time that a homeowner spends in a home. That's the median time, I should say. So if you're buying, let's see, a $280,000 home, and I picked that because it's the median home price in the Tri-County area. Sorry. And we project the home will appreciate at just under 2% per year. Now, homes have been appreciating at much higher rates than that, up to 5% a year the last several years. But let's say it slows down because of the economy or whatever, and it's still appreciating. No one expects homes to not appreciate. Everyone expects homes. Well, one economist I read said no, but he's the only guy. Everyone else I've read says, no, we think homes will keep appreciating, and most think they'll keep appreciating at about 4 to 6% per year over the next few years. And I'll show you why. But I'm being conservative. After 9 years, that $280,000 home is worth $333,000. You have paid it down by $47,000, right? And so basically, you are about $90,000 wealthier because you bought as opposed to renting. Similar amounts, right? Look at this. In fact, the expense on buying was higher when you first got into it. And then I also said your annual rent will increase at 3.5% per year because we think they will. So those are the numbers. And you can see you're $90,000 to better by buying and holding on to that and living in that home for 9 years. But look at this. If you're not sure that you're going to be in the home for a long time, just 1 or 2 years, I wouldn't, because your net worth goes down. Why? Because you pay closing costs to get into the home, you pay a realtor fee to get out of the home and sell it. And that's all taken into account here. The cost to sell, almost $20,000, that's 6%, the cash flow difference, etc. So once you're in a home and you tip into the 4th year, you're already better off, and it just keeps getting better. If you go to year 10, it's 108,000. And that, remember, that's based on a very conservative appreciation amount. So you want to buy a home because it helps build wealth and security, but also you want to buy a home because, and the memories in a home are just different. They're richer. There's something special when you're owning your home as opposed to renting. Nothing wrong with memories in a rental property. We rented an apartment when I first got married, and it was great. Brought our first child home there, and it was great. We have great memories from there, but much deeper memories from our homes. So this is the purpose and overview. I'm going to kind of skip over this a little bit. I'll just highlight a couple things. Kind of going through the process of home shopping, what credit scores need to be, and that's changed of late. That has gone up. That ratio is a little bit. Let's go through a few of these. Finding the right agent. Look, you really want someone who knows the area and who has your best interest at heart and who has some experience. If you want a good recommendation of a good agent, I can help with that. If an agent sent you here to this, we have a few people on. Oh, more people on. Welcome if you're just joining us. If an agent invited you, I only give that link to send the invite out to certain agents, and I know they're all very, very good at what they do. But if you don't have an agent, need a recommendation, I'm happy to give one. Find the right lender. I hope that will be me because that's what I do. But really, you want someone who's going to take time to explain the process to you, to explain the different options and the pros and cons of each option and the options over time. Remember, you're going to live in this home, we project 9 years. It might be 30, it might be forever. But let's say it's 9 years. There's ways to maximize that over time and minimize your expense. And you want someone who shows you a total cost analysis, total cost over time of this particular mortgage over a different one. And lots of communication, which we do well. We'll get complimented on a lot. So the home buying process, this is where it gets fun for you. What I would recommend, this is a really, really tight market. I wouldn't have thought that going into this lockdown period or whatever we're calling it, but it is, and it hasn't let up. And what that means is, especially any home under about 300,000, if it shows well, it's priced right, it's going to probably get multiple offers. So you have to be ready to act quickly in this market. The market will change. One day we'll go to a buyer's market, and you won't have to act as quickly, but that's not the market today. It's really hot. It's slowing down on the upper end. Anything over $1 million, $1.4 million-ish, it's starting to slow a little bit, but not on 350 and under. So what I would suggest is sit down and go over a list of things you absolutely need in a house, and then things that you would like, but maybe not absolutely necessary. Because that'll help you recognize when you see that perfect house, it has everything we need. It's got 2 of the 3 things that were niceties, but not absolutely necessary. So let's jump on it. Sit here and put on your mask and write the offer. That type of thing. You'll be very happy you did an exercise like that to know really, instead of looking blindly, to know what your sine qua nons are, your essentials in a house. Okay, so this is a graph of just home prices, average median home prices across the entire US from 2004, I think, to today. And you can see they have been going up steadily, but it's been on a fairly straight line, right? So in '08 here, kind of, oh no, that's 18, sorry. Where was I? Oh, I didn't quite go back that far. Okay, so they did spike off the graph in '07. They spiked a little bit too much. And you can kind of see that riding down. And then they came down a little bit too much for the median. And about here started taking off and appreciating again. So I get asked this a lot. Is there going to be another housing crash? Well, it's a steady increase. It's not out of whack. It's slightly above the trend line here, but only slightly. Oops, but look at this. Listing inventory, right? Back in, I can't see that. I keep covering it up. Back in 20, I'm still not quite back there. Okay, but you can see the trend. The listing inventory is way down. And I can tell you, it's down even further right now, which is making the market so hot, right? Supply and demand. There's less supply right now. There was more supply here in February, my last bar graph, but it's less now because some of the builders are building more slowly because of this lockdown. And some sellers that would be selling right now in the spring market aren't, because they're like, oh, we're home, we'll put that off, we'll sell later because it's a weird time and all that. So inventory is even lower, meaning the supply is lower, the demand is still there. That's why it's a hot market. And inventories are going, rental prices have continued to rise. They rise and fall a little bit here and there, but the average across the median rather, across the United States is $1,600 a month right now. You think that'll rise with more people out looking and less people that can qualify for homes because the minimum credit score went up? And it did. We used to be able to, most lenders could do loans at a 580 credit score. That's gone. Most are at 620 to 640. Some even went to 680. And Chase went to 700, said, forget it. But so 620 to 640 is what everyone needs now. Not everyone has it. So those 580 to 640 people are probably going to be renting. So you think rents will go up? I do, actually. So before you make an offer, do your research. You can negotiate on a lot more than just the price. You can ask them to pay closing costs, which is the big one. I would highly recommend that if you can, but rely on the advice of your realtor because they know the market in a particular home and get a feel for from the listing agent how many offers are coming in, how aggressive you have to be to win that offer. So have that conversation, but you can always negotiate for some repairs, for maybe new appliances, for home warranty in case something goes wrong on the major stuff of the home in the first year. This is an insurance policy that helps pay for that and replace the big things. Pre-qualification. So you want to get a home. The first step really before going out to look for a home is to make sure you're approved or you can be approved, you're pre-approved. So we're going to ask things like where you're working, how long you've been there, are you furloughed or not? A new question, didn't come up a few months ago. What do you plan to do with the property, live in it, rent it, sell it, renovate it, whatever, because that helps determine the right financing for it. VA loans, if you're in the military, VA loans are awesome. They're great. They're my favorite loan, actually. And will there be a co-borrower? And the down payment. That's a question I get a lot, especially on first-time buyers, because it's tough to save for a down payment. So what do you need? Well, let's go. I'm going to skip that slide and go to this one. For FHA, you need 3.5% of the purchase price. So if you buy a $200,000 home, you need $7,000 down. It can be your funds, or it can be a gift. If a family member wants to help you out, that can be a gift and no problem there. Conventional requires less. It's 3% down. And again, it can be your funds, it can be a gift. You can borrow against a 401k, lots of things. The down payment assistance programs are on pause right now, which I'm happy about because they're not great programs. They're very costly. So I'm okay with that. VA is 0% down. You have to be a veteran or active duty, obviously, to get that, or the spouse of one. And USDA is also 0 down. USDA is rural housing. So you have to kind of go out a little bit to be able to qualify. That, in other words, the property itself has to be rural and considered rural. And there's a website to look that up, and I can help you with that if you're interested in USDA and really want that rural housing. So for example, parts of Moncks Corner qualify. The very outskirts of Somerville qualify for rural housing. Nothing in Goose Creek does. So, and as you go in toward Charleston, obviously nothing does. So if that is something you're interested in, we can look that up and focus in on properties that qualify. Credit scores. Credit scores range from 300 up to 850. 300 doesn't exist in the wild out here, but I've seen some in the low threes, oddly enough. And 850, I don't think it exists. I'm told by the credit bureaus, less than 1% of Americans have a perfect credit score. I've been doing this 19 years. I haven't seen one yet, but I have seen, 835 and stuff like that. Really what you want, ideally, is between 640 and 850 to qualify right now. This was acceptable. I haven't updated this slide, but with everything going on in the mortgage market, which I won't get into, everyone has raised the minimum credit score. And again, different lenders have hit different targets, but you really want a 640 or above. If you don't have that, don't hesitate to reach out, because a credit score is just an algorithm. That's all it is. If you change something on credit, boom, your score changes and you're probably going to be good. So we can improve credit very quickly. Sometimes we just work on it together. If it's down here in the sub 580 range, I'm probably going to recommend a very, very effective credit repair company that would do the heavy lifting for you. So don't let that stop you from getting into the home buying mentality. Just know that that would be the first step. Let's get your credit. I've seen credit scores go from 510 to about 660 in a matter of 3 months. That's not always the case. Sometimes it takes a little longer, but it has happened, and it can. Here's what makes up credit. And I'll just talk about a couple things. Inquiries are 10% of your credit score. Payment history, obviously, is the big one. If you pay things on time, your score goes up over time. But the amounts owed is the second biggest one. And so a lot of people have lower credit scores, maybe a 640 or something like that. But just because they have a credit card with a $1,000 limit, but they charged $999 on it, right? So they're maxed. That hurts your score. Ideally, you want your score to be under 30% usage. So if it's a $1,000 limit, you want to be under $330 at any given time, never above that, because that'll maximize your score. And length of credit history. If you have an old credit card, you don't really use it much anymore, don't close it until after you buy a home, because that eliminates this length of credit history. So I hope that helps. So we look at your credit score. We also look at your debt ratio. We look at your gross income, divide that by the debt, including the new home purchase, right? The monthly payment on this new home, plus anything else that appears on your credit report. And that's pretty much it, unless there's alimony or child support that's paid. Then we add that in the debt ratio. So minimum payments on the credit report, car payment, student loan, whatever, minimum payment on the credit card, stuff like that, plus the house payment divided by the income equals your debt to income ratio. And we don't like to exceed 43%. Sometimes we can go to 50 with better credit, and we could go to 55, but that's gone. Again, changes in the mortgage market. How much home can a borrower afford? Okay, the rule of thumb, Dave Ramsey will say, do a 15-year fixed rate that's no more than 25% of your take-home pay. Great advice. Most people buy more than that, and that's okay. I kind of like this rule, the 30-40-20-10 rule. So your income, take your gross income, I don't know, $5,000 a month. 30% of that goes to Uncle Sam, because it does. So that's taxes. 40% is what you have to live on. So when planning buying a home, take 40% of your gross income every month and say that's the maximum I can spend on all my debt, including the house payment. Back out the other debt, you get to a house payment. That's a comfort level that most people can live with and do very well. Well, plus, anyway. And then, well, plus groceries. So we'll do that one together if you want. 20% goes to savings, ideally, so that you're building wealth over time by putting it in your 401k and an investment account in your rainy day fund and et cetera. Oh, and rainy day fund is important. This 20% is important because owning a home builds wealth over time, but sometimes it can be more expensive than renting in a very short term. And what I mean by that is when you need a new roof on the house or the heating and air system goes out in the heat of summer, 99-degree heat, and you don't have air conditioning, you need a new air conditioner. And that's where you set aside, if you're going to be successful at home ownership and not go into further debt, set aside 20% of your pay every month. And then when that happens, you just say, that's too bad. Call the heating air guy. Next day you have air again. And just write him a check. Or PayPal or whatever that we do these days. Let me see. Are there any questions? If you have questions, by the way, you can put them in the question box. Please do. Payment. 5 things really. Principal and interest, that's your mortgage itself. Then you have property taxes. You have homeowners insurance. You may have PMI. If you put less than 20% down, you have PMI. It's usually not very expensive. You may have flood insurance if you're buying a flood zone. That's also usually not very expensive. And sometimes if you buy in a neighborhood, you also have an HOA. Usually you pay that separate, well, you always pay that separately from the mortgage. So all this is your mortgage payment itself. And then you just save a little for the HOA when it comes to annually or monthly if you buy a townhome or a condo. Purchase, down payment, escrow. Well, I'm not going to go too into this because once you make application, we'll go more in depth on what makes up the cost of a purchase for, in your particular case. So I'm going to kind of go quickly over that. This I like. So, oh, sorry, I thought this was a home buyer checklist. It's not. It's the mortgage application checklist. When you're ready to make application, we'll send you, it actually automatically generates, after you fill out the application online, it generates a list of everything you're going to need, and you can upload it right there. So it's very convenient. People love that. Much better than the old days, which wasn't too long ago, when you'd bring in a stack of papers and we'd start copying it and going through it. It just is easier. To wrap soon. No more renting. That's the big benefit. You build wealth. We talked in the beginning. If you own for 9 years on that average home price in the Charleston market, you'll build a very conservative number for appreciation. The home goes up in value each year. You'll build $90,000 of wealth just by living in a place, just by making a payment, which you make anyway, because no one lives under a bridge, or most people don't. So we have to pay for housing. So that paying for housing also builds up $90,000 of wealth over that 9-year period. And the memories that you create when you own your own home, literally priceless. It's different. It feels different. It's more secure. It just is better. So to get a home approved for your home loan is free. There's no application fee or anything like that. Now there's a fee once you get a contract to buy a home, you'll pay for an appraisal. So know that going into it, but there's no fee to get pre-approved at all. So no harm, no foul. If we can approve you right now, awesome. If we can't, we'll put a plan to fix credit or whatever we need to do and get you into the home as quickly as possible. So yeah, kiss goodbye to your landlord, build some wealth, everything is good. That's me. It has been, let me see if there's any questions real quick. Yeah, I think someone came on late because they're asking, do we think that this virus and everything that's going on in the economy will hurt home prices. It don't, because there's a lack of inventory right now compared to demand, and that pushes prices higher. And it will continue that way for a few years, because the average first-time home buyer, just by studies, is 33 years old. Doesn't mean you have to be, you can be much younger, but the average is 33 years old. So if we go back and look at birth rates coming up to this year, they kept climbing for several years, meaning we'll have more 33-year-olds next year than this year, more the year after that than this year, and those are the first-time home buyers, and that drives demand as well. I got a little technical there, but I thought it was interesting. It's interesting to look at real stats as to what's driving the market and what will. So I think the market will be good for several years to come, probably many. Cool. And I don't think there's any other questions. If I can help in any way, don't hesitate to reach out. And it has been a pleasure. Look forward to helping you get into your home.